Hello, ninjas. Welcome to Real Life Superheroes. I'm so excited about the text that we're reading because we are going to be reading about some amazing real life superheroes, and I know that you have started reading the text and you've learned about one, but we have some amazing superheroes that we're going to be learning about over the next couple lessons. So, before we get started, I want you to think about, what is your superpower? Do you have an inner strength? Do you make a difference in the world? Or do you stand up for what you believe in? Because I believe that each and every one of you have these, just like everyone has the capability to be a real life superhero. So today we have some goals. We are going to be learning about a way to locate key information, so the main idea and supporting details in an informational text. We're going to learn, how can we record that in an organized way? Because we can think about it in our head, but how can we record it in an organized way for us to reflect on our understanding of a text and to use it to help us to better analyze a text? So before we get started, let's review what the main idea and supporting details of an informational text are. So when we think of main idea, we think of it's the most important point or thought about a topic. And the supporting details are facts, examples, and details that help us to support it. So for example, we can find the main idea of a whole text. We can find the main idea of a section of text or of a paragraph. So today we're going to be focusing on finding the main idea of the subheadings within a text. So far you have read about Richard Martin, our real life superhero number 1. We've read a couple pages about him, and on those pages there are subheadings. So we have the main heading, which is Richard Martin, and then we have subheadings about him. Each subheading has a couple paragraphs or one paragraph that gives us more information as to who Richard Martin was and why he is a real life superhero. So you have your notes with you that you should have already downloaded or printed before we started this lesson. You're going to want to have those out because you're going to be adding to those as we go through our lesson. So we are going to be doing the section of Richard Martin. We're going to be finding the main idea and key details that support who he was and why he's a real life superhero from each of our subheadings as we move through the text. So the first subheading that we come across is fact file. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in my notes. And I want to determine, what is the main idea? What does the author want me to know about Richard Martin from this section? So I'm going to find 3 to 4 key details that are going to support the main idea. And I need to figure out, what is that main idea? So I'm going to look through and figure out what are some important facts that I can pull out about Richard Martin that I think are the main important topics that we are learning about from him, and what does the author really want us to know? What is the author, repeating in the passage, the main points that the author wants me to walk away with about Richard Martin. So I have my notes set up. I have my subheading there, and I have my 4 key details numbered and ready to go. So the first thing that I see on this page is that, what is he famous for? I think that is a really important key detail because we want to know, why is Richard Martin famous? Why are you writing a book about him? And so I see that he's famous for getting the world's first animal welfare laws passed in Parliament. That's a pretty big accomplishment. I think that's an important detail about Richard Martin that the author wants us to know. So that's going to go next to number 1 on my notes. Now I want to find the second detail. So I've turned the page, and I see that there are some smaller subheadings that are underneath the fact file. And one of them is, giving me some information about him. And I feel like it's important because the author decided to make it a subheading. So I know that he was the son of wealthy landowners. And this is important because as a child he loved animals and he hated to see them mistreated. So Richard Martin, he used this wealth that he had, he used his status of being in the Irish Parliament and his love for animals, These are all really important aspects of his life that I think the author wanted us to know. So thinking about that, I believe that Richard Martin had a great early life and it helped him to grow his love for animals. He was famous for helping out animals. His dad owned lots of land. He, hated to see them mistreated, and he was famous for becoming in the Irish Parliament. He, used that to help him. And so I think he had a great early childhood life. His parents supported him, and he was able to grow his love for animals. So that would be the main idea that I would have of his fact file. So go ahead and add this main idea to your notes. You can pause the video and add it to your notes. The next section that we're going to look at is going to be the next main section of the text, which is titled Prepared to Fight. So I wonder what this section is going to be about. So I'm going to look through the pages that we've already read, and we are going to come up with what we think are important details that the author wanted us to know. And from those details, we're going to determine the main idea. So the first detail that I thought was really important is that he fought many duels against people, even against people who hurt animals. So the author mentioned it a couple times that he liked to fight duels, and that he fought people who liked to hurt animals as some of his duels. As I turn the page, another important detail that I feel the author emphasized was that he inherited land from his father and had the right to hold court on the land. That's really important. That's a turning factor in his life, that he inherited all this land and that he was able to hold a local court on the land. He was able to be the judge of anybody who was on that land. That's really important. He used that status of being able to hold his court on anyone on his land, that he punished the tenants who mistreated animals. And another really important thing is that when he punished them, he fined them, so made them pay money, or he imprisoned them. So for me, the main idea is that Richard used his status and wealth to help protect and save animals. So he used his status as part of the Parliament and having all this land. He used that to make sure that people treated animals right when they were on his land or when they were near him. So he believed that, and he used that power. So we're going to look at the next section, which is titled Changing Opinions. So I'm going to see if I can determine the main idea of changing opinions. So I'm going to see if I can pull out important details about changing opinions. So one of the important details that I saw was that he tried to get his fellow MPs to support laws that made animal cruelty a crime. So he tried to get other people to support him in his beliefs. At first, he was laughed at. People didn't believe animals had feelings. So at first, they were laughing at him. He was made fun of. They even wrote donkey ears on him, and he was made fun of for his beliefs. But he didn't give up, and he was able to get Parliament to pass Martin's Act, which made it illegal to mistreat cattle. So he finally was able to get some laws passed. He wanted to get more laws that banned cruelty to all animals, not just cattle. So the main idea of this section is showing us that Richard continued to fight for animals' rights even when he was laughed at and ignored. He never gave up. So I think that would be the main idea of what the author was wanting us to really understand from this section of text. Now, you guys are going to do the very last section on your own. The very last section, which you guys will be doing on your own, and you're going to use the notes that you printed out to determine the main idea and key details about the very last section on Richard. If you have any questions, please reach out. Go ahead and continue your lesson and practice using this recording and organized note-taking strategy to help you to record important information about main idea in detail.